started coming here as an infant, over at the old building, of course, on Andersonville Road. My mom started the nursery there, and I've been coming here ever since.
I've been going here since I was in middle school, and she's been coming,
I guess, off and on for a year.
I have been going to this church for 76 years.
I started as a young boy at Waterford Community Church.
My family was already going here before I was born.
We moved to Waterford in 2012. On our first day, we were fortunate enough to have a luncheon afterward, meet a few people, and talk to Pastor Brent.
Hi, I'm Brent Wood, and the pastor here at Waterford Community Church. And I was just remembering when I first came here, I sat down with Mary Jane and we were talking about the church, and I was trying to learn. So I asked her, well, what are some of the things that Waterford Community Church does well? And she sat and thought and pondered for a minute, and finally she looked at me and she said, well, I think we're really good at food. That was my introduction to Waterford Community Church.
Having grown up here, again, this is just the place to be. This is family.
So what really first brought me to Waterford, I joined the Cubbies program for preschoolers.
Even though I was 12 years old when I came here, I did get slightly involved because they had a Good News Club at our home.
I had a first date with a boy, and it was here.
Actually, Caitlin Manganella brought me. The first time I came was for Awana, and I was really nervous. I didn't know if my clothes were appropriate. I didn't know how to act. I had never been in a church before.
And of course, one of the mainstays was Betty Jenks, who was the children's worker at the church.
For Sundays, Betty and Mrs. Fetterplace would pick us up and take us to church, and I was one of 9 children. I can't imagine what they saw in us, actually.
A lot of people have impacted me, like all my teachers. They were so good to me.
For me, I gotta say George Hamilton. He was the youth leader while I was in high school. He's been working in my life for quite a while, and yeah.
George Hamilton. He's kind of been a mentor throughout the years.
I would agree. He's always been, I just remember in high school making everything so interesting and really sparking my journey with Christ.
Pastor Mark, because he wanted me to get baptized.
For me, it would definitely have to be Condra, because she's just shared about marriage and homemaking and everything like that. It's kind of helped my life.
I would definitely say the Manganella family and the Shestikoff family. Big time.
My dad was definitely a tremendous influence. Bob Winnie, who was the pastor from when I was 5 years old through till I graduated high school. There's been a lot.
And then we come to Wright Van Ploeg. He was the most influential man in my life. And through that, I made my decision that I would be everything that God wanted me to be.
One of the wonderful things about the church was there's so many areas that you could be involved. There was the brass quartet. There was the orchestra. There was the choir. And then there was the little kids choir. And the junior choir. We did have the handbells too. The men's quartets, which I was privileged to sing in. It was just a joy. It was the biggest family you could ever want.
But some things were pretty obvious, I think, at Waterford. A spirit of contribution. Lots of people were involved in ministry and making things happen, and that was a good thing.
The people. The people have a lot of humor.
It's a great group of people that we've been able to find spiritual leadership with.
I think another thing probably was just community. There was a lot of connections that were obviously going on and a lot of friendships that were taking place.
I remember when I was really little, I remember we were having like some financial trouble, and I remember receiving, they were anonymous, but we knew they were from the church. We received some Meijer gift cards, and it was Christmas time, so the church really came through and helped us through that.
Honestly, we've been getting a lot of help during the summer through like from middle schoolers and boys and some other guys that have just come over to help remodel the house, and that's just been a big blessing.
My 22-year-old granddaughter got in an auto accident, and she broke her wrist, and no insurance at all of any kind. And the church contributed about half. It was many, many dollars, and so that was a wonderful thing.
Well, I think when you look at history, it's easy to look back and say that, you know, there's this great era here with maybe with Pastor Winnie or Pastor Wisenon or whoever it happened to be that was your pastor at the time, and to reminisce, and that's great. And it reminds us that God's done some great things here. But I think one of the big things at a moment like this is to look forward and to say that there were people that made it happen up to this point who gave us the gift of 150 years. But what do we do to make sure that 150 years from now, other people are still enjoying the gift of Waterford Community Church? And so as I look at this day, I look at it as a launch point, and where we look to the future and say, what do we need to do now? How can we have more impact in our community? How can we have more impact globally? How can we make a difference in this church, outside the walls of this church, and outside even the walls of time?
Now unto him who is able to keep us from stumbling, and to present us blameless before his presence with exceeding joy, to the only wise God, our Savior, be for glory, majesty, dominion, and power, both now and forevermore. Amen.